You know how the old saying goes, right? It's 1 o'clock somewhere. You mean how white people from LS to your average is scared of all brown people, Indians included? Wait, what was that a response to? What? You're going to cover the Elon H-1B visa drama? Yeah, we'll go over it. India versus white Europeans. No, I know what you're saying. I just don't understand. It sounds like you were responding to something. You mean how white people from LS to your average region are scared of all brown people, Indians included? You mean how, when you say you mean how, it sounds like you're responding to a comment that somebody else made. I wasn't sure you were responding to. What changed that made it so you actually care what you look like on stream these days? I don't know. Filling up my spare time with bull. So you don't do drama much anymore. It's a rough world out there. Look at how effed up homeschooling is sometime. Whack. My sister was homeschooled for like 5 years, I think. Even though my mom is like a crazy MAGA person, though, and my parents were crazy conservative people, they didn't homeschool my sister for crazy reasons, which I guess is interesting. I think that I think they just they wanted to homeschool because they wanted my sister to be able to move through at a faster rate or something, and yeah, she did decently. Went to school, college, all that. Jank got cooked by Mark Lamont Hill. You should watch. I heard.
This video is.
Uh-oh, what happened here?
In live, walk out, brothers like, get the hell out, get all of your shit and dip. He ended up kicking me out because he's alt-right Christian conservative. I'm liberal content creator. He called me the Antichrist. He called me an agent of chaos. Dehumanizing as fuck. He said the same shit to me that all those crazy Republican nutbags say in my comment section, say on my live. He even brought up how he thinks that me, Harry, Chris Parker won Trump the election. It was relationship ending. I never, ever, ever want a relationship with that man again. It was absolutely unreal. I cannot believe that my biological brother that I grew up with would ever do that. It's unfucking unreal. But there's live.
Okay.
In live, walk out, brothers like, get the hell out, get all of your shit and dip.
When are you going to acknowledge Dan's cognitive decline? He's clearly too old to be co-host of anything else, not to mention the alcoholism. Didn't you say you had to move A to kick exclusive because Dan is so unpredictable now? True. Damn, that conversation is 2 hours long. I don't know if I can handle that one. We'll see. What is this?
Was sponsored by Squarespace, as have been many of the videos of 2024. Maybe let them know how much you appreciate that. Hot coffee on black plastic. That's great. Hi, I'm Adam Ragusia, and
If you were ever going to give me one, it would have to be this one.
you may have seen a video that I made recently about a study that came out, got a lot of press, suggested that an alarmingly large minority of products made out of black plastic contain alarmingly high levels of potentially toxic fire retardants that are used in the black plastic casings of electronic devices that then get recycled into black plastic products often used in food. Hey, no. This is for you to keep you here, okay? It's not for you to eat yet. I was among the throng of media people who covered that particular study that came out in October. And yes, it's true, in more recent weeks, that study has been corrected, and the journal that published it has been, in essence, sanctioned by another entity within the scientific publishing universe. Here's the correction as published in the journal, and it confirms exactly what I told you a few weeks ago, which is that they made a simple math error. They were off by a 0. The result was that they estimated that a problem, one particular aspect of the problem here, is 10 times worse than it actually is, which is a big deal. They did some math to calculate how much cooking with this one particular black cooking spoon would raise your daily average exposure to this particular dangerous fire retardant, BDE2. 209, which has been banned in the US since 2019. Don't worry, I'm sure we'll find out soon why whatever they're using instead is also toxic. And when they were taking the government's reference dose, which I think was an annual sum, they needed to convert it into like a daily sum. And when they did that, it looks like they just made a very simple arithmetic mistake. They were off by an order of magnitude. They left off a zero. The result is that it looked like the estimated exposure was approaching the reference dose, which is the poison dose, or the lowest level of poison dose available, when in fact it's actually approaching 1/10 of the poison dose, and that's a really big difference. Now, given the timeline, it is possible that we have influenced the course of events here. It is possible that my video, where I pointed out that math error, is what led other publications to point out the same error, which ultimately led to pressure coming onto the study authors, and they ended up publishing a correction. So it's possible that I did it, that we did it. Or it's possible that other people came to the same conclusions independently. But given the timeline, I totally could have made a video where I crow about how I was right and these damn scientists with their environmental agenda, they're wrong. Hey, don't eat that. I'll tell you right now from experience that such a video, such a thumbnail would have gotten a whole lot of clicks, and probably would have gotten me a whole lot of, what's the word that the kids use it for these days? Clout, right? Would have gotten me a whole lot of social media clout or other kinds of more meaningful real world clout. I don't know, social media clout's gotten pretty real these days. But when you make withdrawals from the bank of common trust, you are using trust for yourself that could instead be used by someone else. And in fact, would maybe be more rightly or better used by someone else. And I think such is the case here. Because if I were to puff myself up and make it seem like I'm the only truth teller in the room and you need to come to the Adam Ragusea channel on the YouTubes in order to find out what's really going on with any food safety research. If I did that, I would be taking trust that really belongs with the people who are actually doing the hard work of doing the damn science, which, yes, involves sometimes making mistakes. There are far too many people in public life nowadays, be they influencers on the internet or politicians in the real world, who are far too eager to poison the well of public trust if it benefits them. If it makes you trust them instead, it makes you believe that they are the only truth tellers and that you have to stick with them in order to not be fooled, which is the one thing.
Wow, Ben Mick, thanks for the gifted 5 memberships.
People want to avoid more than almost anything else is we don't want to get got, we don't want to be a sucker, we don't want to be fooled. And when there's a person who promises to keep us from getting fooled, we have a tendency to latch onto that person. Or the other thing that poisoning the well of public trust does is it makes it so that no one really knows what to believe. It seems like you can't know anything for real. Everything is fake, everything is compromised in some way. And if you create an information environment where no one believes anything, then you don't have to bother being believable yourself. And let me tell you, that opens up enormous new avenues of rhetorical possibilities. You can say all kinds of incredibly persuasive things if you don't have to worry about them being true. So here's what I'm going to try to do instead right now. I'm going to try to persuade you that this still looks like a pretty good paper. It has really, really important information for all of us, and there's no particular reason to distrust the scientific establishment on the basis of this one math error, or on the basis of a whole ton of math errors, because mistakes happen. First of all, let's remind ourselves that the whole reason I was able to spot this error is that they put their arithmetic right here in the paper, like they spelled it out in the body of the paper. They didn't necessarily have to do that. I mean, that's definitely like best practices for scholarly publication, but they probably could have gotten away with just giving an estimated daily reference dose for this one toxin, and then just having a little citation to the government white paper that tells you how they calculated the reference dose. You would have to go into that original source document and look at that math and then do it all over again yourself to try to spot where their mistake was. They showed their work in this case, these scientists did, and that's why we were able to spot the flaw in it. If they wanted to hide it, if they wanted to get one over on you, if they wanted to fool you into thinking that black plastic is way more dangerous than it actually is, so that you would give money to the environmental nonprofits that fund the science that they do, they wouldn't do this. They would try to hide their tracks if they were trying to fool you. Instead, they put it right there. People who are trying to fool you either don't show you their work, or they try to overwhelm you by giving you just reams and reams and reams of primary source documentation as backup for the thing that they're presenting you with. And you would have to go through tons and tons and tons of it in order to spot any mistakes or anything nefarious. That happens all the time. Government does that all the time. When you put in an open records request for some of the government documents that the public is allowed to see, if they want to hide something, they'll give you way too much and they'll fax it to you in like papers that cannot be searched on the computer. They'll do all kinds of things like that to try to get you off the trail. That is not what happened here. These scientists were not trying to fool you. All evidence is to the contrary. Anyway, there's another reason why I still trust these scientists. It's because
Wait, why did he just do that? Wait, why would he do that? Why would you do that? Adam. I feel like he's doing a good thing here in pointing out that like sometimes scientific papers can be wrong, and it's okay. Sometimes people are wrong. It doesn't mean they're intentionally lying. It doesn't mean they're doing weird, creepy, sneaky, stupid shit. They could just be incorrect. And because of the transparency, I guess, in the paper, he was able to call out the error. But then he assumes that like if the government is faxing you a lot of papers, it's because they're intentionally trying to obfuscate the truth from you. It's likely it's just whatever the fucking office is, whatever they're doing. They probably just have really fucking old legacy systems that have just never been updated, and faxing is just the way that they do things. Unless you're talking about like the ATF, which is intentionally gimped, but or gimped, but that's Republicans' faults.
or anything nefarious. That happens all the time. Government does that all the time. When you put in an open records request for some of the government documents that the public is allowed to see, if they want to hide something, they'll give you way too much and they'll fax it to you in like papers that cannot be searched on the computer. They'll do all kinds of things like that to try to get you off the trail. That is not what happened here. These scientists were not trying to fool you. All evidence is to the contrary. Anyway, there's another reason why I still trust these scientists. It's because there's another way that this mistake might have happened that is very, very understandable. And I owe this to a person named Emma Davis, who emailed me this hypothesis. So what they calculated wrong was the reference dose for the neurobehavioral effects that are associated with this particular fire retardant. So that's the minimum dose at which when you poison lab mice with this particular fire retardant, that's when you start to see them doing funny stuff that indicates neurological issues. That's the one they got wrong. But if you look at the reference dose for cancer risk associated with this fire retardant, that just happens to be 1 order of magnitude lower.
What he's talking about is something else. I'll put it in a way relevant to you. Thank you. I need analogies. I can't understand it in plain speak. In Suits, common pop culture reference, a lot of the time opposing counsel will send over like a room full of boxes for discovery in an effort to screw over Mike and Harvey. He's talking about a similar thing. Wow. Thank you. The lack of comparison, though, is that for lawsuits, usually you're on some kind of limited timetable where you can respond to the opposing party. But if for a FOIA request, you just got all the time in the world, right?
Lower than the reference dose for the neurobehavioral effects. So it's very, very possible that what they calculated was the reference dose for the cancer risk and came up with what would have been the right number for cancer risk. Oh, and by the way, you know what this means? This means that that particular exposure level for this one particular fire retardant absolutely is approaching the reference dose for cancer risk associated with that particular chemical. So it's still kind of a big deal. And this is only one of the particular fire retardants and one of the particular spoons and stuff that they were looking at. They looked at a bunch of other stuff. They got a lot of concerning findings. Now the plot thickens when you consider the most recent developments, which is that the journal in which this article was published, Chemisphere, has just been delisted by Web of Science. Web of Science is an online tool that people use to gauge the impact of scientific scholarly publications, right? It will tell you how often and where a scientific publication has been cited by other scientists. Gives you an indication how big of an impact that particular article has had. Really important thing. I used Web of Science all the time back when I had access to university databases and such, back when I had a .edu email address. Don't have it anymore. Can't get Web of Science anymore.
I could be wrong, but my understanding was faxing was still confidentially safe because the only risk is people that have access to the machine, less digital interception. Was that true? Does faxing even go over ordinary phone lines anymore, or is faxing like some digital thing now? I don't know.
I tried to pay for it. They wouldn't. They said we only do scholars and not, jackholes on the internet. Anyway, Web of Science just took Chemisphere and all Chemisphere articles, presumably, out of their system for a failure to meet one or more of their quality criteria, which indicates that maybe this particular error in this particular Chemisphere paper is maybe just the straw that broke the camel's back. Now, I would completely understand if that knowledge kind of rattles your trust in the scientific publishing establishment, but let me tell you that I really don't think it should, because this is an indication of the system working. Yes, the process by which scientists write their papers and then get them reviewed by their peers and edited by professional editors and then published in professional journals, that process has all kinds of potential for error built into it. And people have been working to reform that process for years, and that process is ongoing. Yes, that process is corruptible by money, by professional ambition, all kinds of things. We have all kinds of examples of scientists getting caught falsifying their data in order to get a bigger grant or to just make themselves feel more important, is maybe what it was all about. Who knows? But here's why I still trust science and scientific journals. It's because when something goes wrong, it's a really big deal. It becomes an international news story. People make YouTube videos about it. When other kinds of people, such as influencers on the internet, are caught either getting something wrong or lying, notice how frequently there are not that many consequences associated with that infraction, or if there are consequences, they tend to pass rather rapidly. I mean, look at me. In that video that I made a few weeks ago about the black plastic study, I misspoke twice. I referred to the reference dose as, I think, the highest possible dose that's associated with something going wrong, whereas in fact it's the lowest possible dose associated with something going wrong. All right? I made some kind of mistake like that, and what happened to me? Absolutely nothing. Where have I been delisted? Have I had to issue a correction? No. Now, part of that is because it was obvious the mistake that I was making, right? In context, given context clues, you could tell what I actually meant, and you were less likely to get mad at me about that because it was obvious that I was just sort of talking off the cuff.
For HIPAA, email is considered insecure and only fax is allowed. They use digital fax, but it's still over POTS lines, plain old telephone system. Yeah, maybe, I guess. I don't really know much about the difference in how those systems work. I guess if you're faxing something to a telephone number, it can only ever go to a single destination, right? Because of however the telephone number things work in the United States. Whereas I guess emails can be opened from anywhere. And I guess a fax should be, you get a piece of paper one time. I wonder if the machines store copies now. I can fax to like 10 places at once. Well, yeah, but is that an option you select, or? Yeah, I don't know.
It's obvious that I'm not some kind of scientific muckety-muck getting peer-reviewed and published in a professional publication. I'm just some idiot on the internet, and so you hold my comments to a lower standard, for better and for worse. Mostly for worse, right? I make mistakes all the time. It's never a deal. I could get away with so many more of them than I do. Usually I have to tell on myself in order to get it out there that I did something wrong. No consequences whatsoever for an influencer on the internet. Tons of consequences for real scientists in the real world, and that's why you should trust them in spite of their mistakes. Now maybe you look at the same situation and come to completely different conclusions. Maybe you think to yourself, this peer review process must be completely toothless if it can't catch an order of magnitude math error in a major finding in a major paper of major public health significance. And yeah, I kind of see why you look at it that way. But then again, here's what I would say to you. What do you want to do instead? Who do you want to trust instead? What process do you want to trust instead? You just want to trust that like one guy on the internet who has captured your attention in the algorithm and maybe captured your trust by making quality content? Totally possible. You want to trust that guy? Maybe he is trustworthy. Maybe I'm trustworthy. That's not a better system. Individual scientists within the scholarly publishing world are also totally trustworthy, and some of them aren't. Individuals are good and bad. In fact, most of us live long enough to be both good and bad at different times in different places in our lives, right? There's good and bad everywhere. What you rely on are systems that create penalties for getting it wrong and rewards for getting it right. And that is what we have in our scholarly publication system that we have built up over decades and decades and decades, and would be very, very foolish to throw away. Because if you start just relying on whoever on the internet you trust, then they are going to be corrupted in the exact same way that academic publishing is already corrupted, except there will be fewer institutional ways of exposing that corruption and punishing that corruption. Another reason you should be more skeptical of me than you should be of scholarly publications is that if I lie or exaggerate in order to get your attention...
Fuck, I really don't like how he keeps using lie and exaggerate and get something wrong. I feel like these are very, very, very different things. All these are very different things, and they should be treated differently. And they should be approached differently, I think.
I get major immediate financial rewards for it. Now, people in scholarly publication, yeah, they can make some bank too by lying or exaggerating, but it's generally not nearly as much money, it's not nearly as immediate, and people who go into that kind of thing generally don't go into it in order to make money. If you want to make money, you do something that is reliably known to make money, and scientific research is not that. I'll be honest and say sometimes when I look at people on the internet, what they remind me of is like children who figured out a little bit too early that Santa Claus isn't real, and now they don't believe anything that their parents say because they know their parents lied to them about this one really, really big thing. What else might they have lied to them about? And they're just now figuring out that the world isn't always as it seems. We all need to figure out that the world is not always exactly as it seems, and that's not a reason to distrust everything.
At Destiny, you use it the same way too. What? No, I draw a huge distinction between getting things wrong and lying. It's something I stress a lot, that there's a huge difference between somebody messing up versus somebody intentionally lying about a thing. These two things are completely and totally different things.
Everything. You got to grow up, become an adult, and realize that there's no one in charge here. It's just us. It's just people like you and me with all of our own human frailties. And just because someone is wrong, just because they intentionally try to deceive you, that's not necessarily a reason to throw them away.
Like that intentionally tries to deceive you is a lot different than getting something wrong. It's very weird that he keeps using these interchangeably.
Charge here. It's just us. It's just people like you and me with all of our own human frailties. And just because someone is wrong, just because they intentionally try to deceive you, that's not necessarily a reason to throw them away. Everyone is wrong sometimes. Everyone is at least a little deceitful sometimes. That's a reason for you to stay frosty, stay skeptical, keep your thinking cap on, but you got to stay open as well, because for every wrong thing a typical person does, they usually do a whole lot of right things, and you need to be open to that. Just as you're open to the fact that I have something of value to offer you, even though I'm bought and paid for at the moment by the good people at Squarespace, sponsor of this video. You're able to use your big brain and figure out that there's no particular reason to think that Squarespace is compromising the editorial integrity of all of the other really important stuff that I said in this video. The only thing they care about is that I tell you about their design intelligence, which allows you to use cutting-edge technology to come up with a beautiful website design, either through one of their established templates designed by a human, or through something that you make manually yourself, or get a little help with AI. Squarespace doesn't want to give me money in order to allay public concerns about carcinogens and black plastic. They want to give me money to tell you about how you can get people to give you money with your Squarespace site, be it with Squarespace payments, where you can take people's money via ACH direct debit, Apple Pay, Afterpay, and ClearPay in the UK, or you can use Squarespace's built-in invoicing tools, where you can auto-generate invoices for people putting in orders on your Squarespace site. Squarespace wants me to tell you about their search engine optimization tools. Every Squarespace website is optimized to be indexed with meta descriptions, an auto-generated sitemap, and more to make sure that your site shows up in search results. And they definitely want me to tell you about their business name generator. It all starts with a name, and you can make Squarespace come up with one for you if you want. You can also save 10% off of your first website with Squarespace, or your first registration of a custom domain, by using my code, which is just Ragusia. Squarespace.com/Ragusia, or enter Ragusia at checkout to save 10%.
Isn't he just conceding that even if the mistake was made in bad faith, for example, a lie, that you still shouldn't distrust them? Well, if somebody's willing to lie to you, that says a lot about their character, and that should evaluate the way that you view the things that they tell you, right? So if somebody's lying, you need to figure out, well, why are you lying to me? Because that could be a motivation for them to lie in the future, right?
% off of your first Squarespace site or your first domain name. Thank you, Squarespace. And thank you, science and scientists, for continuing to do the good work, even when people on the internet make your life harder. Sorry about that.
Okay. Funny Hasan hate watch moment.
I guess when you frame it with elites rather than capital-owning bourgeois or whatever, oh my God, you're becoming jank. Yeah, totally. This means I agree with right-wingers and not vice versa. I think I'm on the opposite side of that spectrum, where right-wingers are agreeing with me. I'm not agreeing with right-wingers. I am noticing contradictions that other people are also noticing and using that to describe my worldview in a way that people can comprehend. This is what I do. It's called agitative propaganda. Okay? That is the major difference here.
Just as a quick, I guess like to draw some distinctions around what people are complaining about. Okay, so remember, we're on our emotive arc, okay? When people say things, we have to figure out what they're actually saying. When conservatives complain about school or college, they're not actually complaining about college. They're complaining about far left teachers and kids, and they're complaining about what they perceive to be as useless and far left degrees. If you talk to a conservative and you go like, hey, I want to go to college to be a mechanical engineer, conservatives aren't going to tell you, oh, don't do that, go be an electrician, or oh no, skip that, you're going to become wokeified. They'll say, good job, go to STEM. That's what they'll always say. So, yeah, conservatives don't mind the concept of going to school and getting an education. They're just like very much like solely career oriented around it, and like STEM career oriented around it for whatever reason, whatever reasons. There are reasons for that, but fix your chat. I saw these two videos. There's a huge war going on right now on Twitter because Elon Musk is bringing back the kind of like the neocon stuff to where I don't have data to support this. So if anybody wants to find some, fucking please let me know. I'm repeating a talking point that I've heard. So I don't know. I've heard this, but supposedly Republicans have always been like anti-immigration, but under the neocons of like Bush, it's like anti-immigration in name only, because large conservatives and everything still want workers for their business, right? And more immigrants means more supply of labor. Supply of labor is one of your most important economic inputs. It's also people that have an incredibly positive fiscal impact, because they're like, if you think about it, I think we've drawn this graph before, right? We're going to say red is, we'll do red as fiscal. Fiscal means, fiscal is relating to government budgets, right? Fiscal means how much does your state spend? How much does your federal government spend, right? So if we think of somebody as a child, their fiscal impact is usually like pretty bad. Maybe in the form of tax credits for the family, maybe in the form of some child health care. There's going to be downstream effects like parents not working or whatever. We won't go with that deep, but like it's usually like pretty bad or whatever, right? And then let's see, you probably spend more actually as they get older. Here, let's draw some lines actually for age. We'll do 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35. So when a child is born, they probably start to suck money out of the system. You go to a school that's generally paid for with property taxes. So hopefully, well, no, it's still a drain because older people have to pay it, right? So you go to school, you go to fucking college, you got like college loans. And then you hit this point where hopefully once you get out of college, you shift from being, like a fiscal drain, hopefully, there's not a bunch of taxes being spent on you, to where you start to contribute fiscally. You begin working, you begin paying taxes, The government shouldn't be spending as much money on you. And then this should like steadily rise, hopefully throughout your life, until eventually you become old. And then once you become old, then you start consuming fiscally again. Something this bullshit or whatever, right? I don't know what the actual graph will look like, but it'll be some variation of this. The nice thing about grabbing an immigrant that wants to come to the United States to work is usually they're already past this. You don't have to invest in this. They're already grown up. They've made it to 18 to 22, and they're here, right here, and they're ready to work. So when an immigrant comes in, you've eliminated this whole part of the subsidy, and then they're here to work. And because they're young, they're not in this consumption part yet, fiscally, in terms of government budget. So, and they also they buy shit too, right? Because as they make money, they demand goods and services. So they also grow your economy this way. So having like people coming in that are just under this like fiscal contributory, ready to fiscally contribute. This is why immigrants coming into a country, we usually have a positive economic benefit and they'll have a positive fiscal benefit. Now, also, this doesn't matter if it's a high skill immigrant or low skill immigrant. It doesn't matter. They consume all the same, not the same exactly like how much they consume, but they consume the same. They all consume things and they all work as labor inputs. Now, that's not to say there could be other effects that could be positive or negative. It depends. It's possible you can displace workers. It's possible you could increase crime in some areas. It's possible, whatever. Some people speak Spanish in areas. Like there are other things, but just on a purely numbers thing, this is a thing. What, somebody just linked me. What is this? Hold on. Updated assessment overall sustainability of the public finances over the next 50 years. What am I? Chart 4.13. Oh, cute. Okay. So this is the cumulative fiscal impact of migrants. Okay, so you have a UK resident, so you can see here where they're the fiscal drain, and then as they start working, it's a fiscal boon, they're contributing, and then as they age out, they start to consume more because of healthcare, right? Assuming they make it all the way to age 100. And then migrants. Oh, it feels good when you draw some bullshit on paint. That's exactly correct. Migrants are already coming in here at like 20 to 24. You're skipping this whole black area here where you would have been a fiscal drain. And then you have all this fiscal fiscal boon, fiscal contribution, positive fiscal contribution. I don't know why but then you've got low wage migrants. This is a problem. This is not good. But I would argue this is probably because of excessive welfare state or something. I don't think you can have citizens, especially if they're coming in at age 24, that are always a drain on you. But you can see for the average wage migrant here, like they come in here and then they you skip all of this down period here and then you're making money here. Yeah. I wonder why. Oh, this is cumulative. Oh, okay. That makes sense. So, because I was wondering, how are you still a positive contributor at 88 years old as a fucking average wage migrant? But it's because they're adding up all of the cumulative effects going on. So they have to turn like 90 before they become a net drain, basically, on the state. Yeah. Well, why was I bringing all this up? Oh, I was just bringing all this up to say that, so even though historically conservatives might have used the rhetoric of being anti-immigration, I think they were generally pro-immigration because it generally served, it was good for the GDP, it was good for the country, it was good for the, for large corporations, it was good for small businesses, like people that hire people, like it's just, immigrants are just a free supply of labor. It's always good, more customers for your products and stuff like that, regardless of any other downstream effects. Remember, this is the UK, so the welfare thing is not as much of a problem for our migrants. Yeah. For UK and Europe, their welfare stuff is going to be a lot more than ours. So anyway, Elon is bringing up, rightfully so, that companies are super ultra hungry for workers in the United States. Really in the entire world, everybody is like very, very hungry for workers right now. I don't know if it's because of World War II and the baby boomer stuff and all that, and those people are aging out. So we've got like a lot of demand right now and not as many customers, and the population graphs are a little bit more lopsided. That Peter Zweihander dude talks about this all the time, or used to. So yeah, a lot of companies are hungry for workers. Elon is pointing this out. If you work in tech, okay, these people love H-1B visas, which is basically just like, I believe they're temporary worker visas. And the stereotype is that you basically bring in Indians to work in your, you bring in Indians to like program for you. The issue is that there are two Indians. It's kind of funny that Indians are kind of like the Mexicans, I think, of software development, to where they're simultaneously like lazy, horrible workers that can't get anything done correctly, but they're also somehow mysteriously displacing a lot of your high talent workers. I think the truth is probably that India is a massive fucking country. And if companies are drafting Indians to come and work for your companies, they probably are pretty talented, and they probably are displacing some of your high talent worker. And it's probably not just because they can pay them less. It's probably because they do have a decent grasp on what they're doing. But yeah, so Elon and the rest of the tech world are all saying like, yeah, we need more H-1Bs, we need more workers. And obviously MAGA did not draw that crowd of people that care much about just like economic numbers. They care more about like culture and stuff like that. And so they're all fighting against Elon, and everybody's been in the trenches over this particular issue right now. It's also because they can trap them on those visas, because if they leave that job, they have to go home. I am vibing this so hard right now because I don't know any of the facts, but I would be really surprised if Indians felt like they were getting trapped in the U.S. on H-1B visas. I feel like they're probably generally pretty happy to be here. That'd be my guess, but we'll grab a Red Bull one sec.
States in the internet world. I do believe there will be a rational immigration policy eventually passed. I think there's going to have to be some time. What's interesting about our country, if you study history, is that there are some isms that occasionally pop up. One is isolationism, and it's evil.
I think we've watched this before, but
when protectionism, and its evil triplet nativism. So if you study the 20s, for example, there was an American first policy that said, who cares what happens in Europe? Well, what happened in Europe mattered eventually because of World War II. There was Smoot-Hawley, which was a part of an economic policy, which basically said we don't want trade. In other words, let's throw up barriers. And there was an immigration policy that I think during this period argued we had too many Jews and too many Italians, therefore we should have no immigrants. And my point to you is we've been through this kind of period of isolationism, protectionism, nativism. I'm a little concerned that we may be going through the same period. I hope that these isms...
It's crazy looking back, retrospective. I'm sorry, I'm never going to lose this. It's just crazy looking back that George W. Bush was like the stupid guy. Like, this is the guy who was an idiot. Everybody's like, oh my God, George W. Bush, what a dumb fuck. Like the way that he was the stupid guy. That's how everybody saw him. We had a whole thing called Bushisms, I think, right? He was the stupid guy.
States in the
He kind of was stupid though, right? I don't believe so, no. I don't know if Bush ever, I think he spoke like a Southerner, and there's like a bias sometimes in certain parts of the world about like how Southerners sound depending on what your job is, but I don't know if he was ever stupid. I think it was literally just like an accent thing. He was goofier compared to other candidates like the ones he ran against. Maybe. I'm always reminded of when Bush waves off Kerry. That was George Bush, right? I always look for this clip. It always takes me. Why? I bet if I Google it. Whatever. Fuck me. Don't care. Oh, wait. Was it Gore? Maybe it was Gore, not Kerry. Gore and Kerry are like coded as the same person in my mind. I'm going to be honest. I don't know why. They just are. Whatever. So I'm going to try to find it. He's not stupid compared to the general population. He's stupid compared to presidents. He's probably the most stupid president we've had. I would say insofar as politics and history and policy is concerned, he's easily more intelligent than Trump. Although you could say my individual bias is speaking there. But I've never been proven wrong on that. But I don't know anything about historical presidents. Apparently we've had some crazy presidents, so. Jesus. Things are going well for Elon's popularity among those he has pandered to on this site at the moment. Community notes, this picture is real. Okay. Is C-SPAN not publicly funded? Who's making money off these ads? I demand an answer.
News.
And the Washington Journal.
Oh, nice. And it even... You know what? I don't care. I don't care about the clip anymore, okay? Why is it only on C-SPAN? There's no way this is not on YouTube.
Enerpac low-height hydraulic cylinders are versatile and durable. And with several models to choose from, there's an RSM low-height cylinder for many different applications. Buy now at enerpac.com.
Yes.
Whether Governor Bush will support the
This took way too long to find. Now it lost its impact. This is just a funny meme. This is a funny moment. I don't know why he did this.
Norwood bill, which is the main one pending.
Governor Bush, you may answer that if you'd like, but also I'd like to know how you see the differences between the two of you, and we need to move on.
Well, the difference is that I can get it done. That I can get something positive done on behalf of the people. That's what the question in this campaign is about. It's not only what's your philosophy and what's your position on issues, but can you get things done? And I believe I can.
All right.
What about the Dingell-Norwood bill?
All right, we're going to go now.
I'm not quite through. Let me finish.
All right,
the
yes, go.
I talked about the principles.
Just listen to this debate. I'm sorry. Fuck me, dude. Jesus. What happened? Where are we right now? We're in a wacky time period in U.S. history.
Specifically, would like to know whether Governor Bush will support the Dingell-Norwood bill, which is the main one pending.
Governor Bush, you may answer that if you'd like, but also I'd like to know how you see the differences between the two of you, and we need to move on.
Well, the difference is that I can get it done. That I can get something positive done on behalf of the people. That's what the question in this campaign is about. It's not only what's your philosophy and what's your position on issues, but can you get things done? And I believe I can.
All right.
What about the Dingell-Norwood bill?
All right, we're going to go now.
I'm not quite through. Let me finish.
All right, yes, go.
I talked about the principles and the issues that I think are important in a patient's Bill of Rights. You know, there's this kind of Washington, D.C. focus, well, it's in this committee, or it's got this sponsor. If I'm the president, we're going to have emergency room care, we're going to have gag orders,
Women will have direct access to OBGYN. People will be able to take their HMO insurance company to court.
Like, remember, this is the stupid guy. Bush is the stupid guy in my lifetime. Sorry, hold on. I'm trying to be more positive. Next year is an optics year, okay? All the optics people, okay? Next year is an optics year, okay? But listen, just listen to him speak. Like particulars about, was the Dingell-Norwood bill, is this about like a healthcare thing or Patients' Bill of Rights? Oh, that's what they're talking about. Yeah, so they're talking about a particular piece of legislation. He's referencing specific points in the legislation, and they're
DC focus was in this committee, or it's got this sponsor. If I'm the president,
talking about conflicting interests between what committee did it come out of, who's sponsoring the bill.
We're gonna have emergency room care. We're gonna have gag orders. Women will have direct access to OBGYN. People will be able to take their HMO insurance company to court. That's what I've done in Texas, and that's the kind of leadership style I bring to Washington.
All right, the next question.
Jeez. I will split the difference with Vivek. The reason that Indians and other successful minorities in the U.S. succeed is by blending the culture of hard work and familial dedication with the American spirit of dynamism born from the founders and the frontier spirit. Pure Asian culture encourages rote memorization, conformity, and leads to misery with little innovation. Pure modern Western culture valorizes having a good time over working hard and inevitably is dominated by hedonism. The culture I want to venerate is the American culture, which beat the Axis powers in World War II. It had important institutional checks against hedonism, encouraged hard work, and also heavily prioritized athletics, leadership, and social skills. The best way to recreate that culture, in my opinion, is an immigration moratorium, as we did. Okay, wait, I super agree with this. Is good stuff, I think. The best way to recreate that culture, in my opinion, is an immigration moratorium, as we did in the early 1900s. We must hash out our differences, decide intentionally what culture we want for our children, and end racial balkanization, which is eating us from within. We're gonna end all immigration until we end our differences. What? Decide what our culture is gonna be? What? We're gonna do this? Okay. What is it? Probably. What would you say? It probably takes maybe 2 years, 3 years to get all this done, and end racial balkanization, which is eating us from within in the U.S., bro. We also need to prioritize education and opportunity for native-born citizens instead of seeing workers as individual economic units. This will inevitably clash with purely capitalist interests, as it did in the 1900s, but is important nonetheless for societal cohesion and strength. Too many H-1B arguments I see today are just the inverse of leftist justification for mass illegal immigration. I'll end with a plea to Americans of Indian descent: reject the growing calls for Indian identity politics or DEI/wokeness by another name, and instead embrace the spirit of Theodore Roosevelt. Okay, again, I'm super vibing this because I'm just not 100% sure. I've never gotten the impression ever that Indians in the United States are big like DEI wokies, but I'm drawing from like very heavily my impressions of like Indians working in tech. Is this like a thing that some Indians are doing? Or Destiny, this rote memorization education in Asia, how true is that talking point? Is there a comprehensive analysis of differences in education between the East and the West, or is it just a stereotype? I'm going to be honest. It feels a little bit like a cope from white people. I'm drawing a lot from my Nazi debates, but it's like white people will say some things like, well, yeah, Asians are genetically superior to us when it comes to IQ, but we're more creative than them. They just have high memorizing equations IQ, and that's why their Olympics, are dominated by 6-year-olds. But we have higher creativity IQ, and then like black people have lots of creativity IQ but low actual IQ, and I don't know, it just feels weird. I'm like, there are white people in the United States that do rote memorization. There are a lot of Asian people that do rote memorization. There's a lot of creative people in the West. There's a lot of creative people in the East. Like I don't know if there's this huge fixation on one thing or another, but yeah, I don't know. I don't buy into that concept that like Asian people, although he's not making a racially essential argument here, to be fair. He's talking culturally, to be fair to him. There is no room in this country for hyphenated Americanism. When I refer to hyphenated Americans, I do not refer to naturalized Americans. Some of the very best Americans I've ever known were naturalized Americans, Americans born abroad, but a hyphenated American is not an American at all. This is just as true of the man who puts native before the hyphen as of the man who puts German or Irish or English or French before the hyphen. Americanism is a matter of the spirit and of the soul. Our allegiance must be purely to that of the United States. We must unsparingly condemn any man who holds any other allegiance, but if he is heartily and singly loyal to the Republic, then no matter where he was born, he's just as good an American as anyone else. Doesn't this kind of contradict a little bit what we said earlier about putting a moratorium on immigration, though? I feel like one of the strengths of America is supposed to be that anybody in the world, given the talent and prerequisite like desire to like go through the process or whatever, or do what they need to do to become an American, should become an American. And you want to be able to recruit like as many people as possible. I guess it sounds kind of weird, and I need to do more historical analysis to know if my opinion here is historically supported or if it's just a personal opinion. But the idea even of like favoring Native Americans or natives, like favoring American citizens over favoring people in other countries who want to immigrate here, even that paradoxically is not as American to me. Like if there's some bright Indian kid who's like really smart and wants to come to the United States and work, why would I favor some, default American citizen who might not have the same skills or talents or whatever? Why wouldn't I want to draft that other guy to this country? I think one of the strengths of America has been that America is able to absorb so much and then deploy it in a productive way. We take from the world, and we can absorb so many different peoples and cultures and talents and businesses and ideas, and we like assimilate all of them into American culture, and then we put that product out to the rest of the world, and I don't know, we've just been really, really, really successful at it. Shouldn't we generally make sure Americans are good before making sure non-Americans are good? No, you do all of it at the same time. We have a huge government. We've got a huge infrastructure. We've got a huge country. We would never finish one thing and then do the next thing. Because one, Americans are never going to be good. There's always something to work on, right? You want another? I'm going to give you another super scolding hot take, okay? As somebody who has absolutely just to reiterate, okay, no experience programming, no experience in software development, anything of that. One thing that I wonder might be happening is I wonder if for the early decade or two where computer programming and software development jobs were like exploding, it's because you've got like tech is like a glowing industry, right? All these new people are coming in. It's so attractive to everybody. It's growing like crazy. And there's a huge demand for workers. But I think as software engineering has like rediscovered the principles of conventional engineering, right? Like software engineers, it feels like 25 years ago, we're like, you're trying to build a building with 20 people and all 20 people are doing something different. And now they're like, okay, well now we have whole frameworks for how we move projects through an entire enterprise. And we do all these things that it used to be before that if you knew how to program a little bit, or if you knew how to program, now you're like good to go and you get a job. But especially with international markets competing, these jobs are probably becoming a lot more, I'll say G-loaded, or you have to be more intelligent. It's not enough to just know syntax, and it's not enough to just like know how to do a thing, but things that are calling for more problem solving or more like elevated faculty are becoming important. And India has, what is the population? It's over almost 1.4 billion people. If you can draw talent from this many people, you probably are going to get some genuinely really intelligent people. And if you're just like an ordinary whatever programmer who knows how to like type some shit, but you don't have like as much the mind for problem solving or for working through like these large frameworks, it's probably going to, the competition for that market, my guess is going to be a lot tougher than it used to be. It's not enough to just say like, oh, I can do 3 languages. Like now, like, again, I'm talking so far outside of my whatever, but like before it might've been impressive that like you could program in however many languages. And now it's like, I don't actually even give a fuck if you know a language or not. Like, can you problem solve? Because the syntax is fucking whatever. We can plug it into a thing, or we can get a junior or whatever to fucking to work on it. The syntax doesn't even matter as much anymore. Now it's just like big problem solving things. But I mean, as that requirement grows, you get into areas that are harder to just like learn in school or for any programmer to be able to do. But that's a total vibes guess. You know, I could be wrong on that. Just what it feels like, just from stuff that I read and see and everything. But makes sense. But how do you account for the lack of high quality educational facilities in India, or are Indians more likely to be self-taught? If I had to guess, there probably are a lot of high quality educational facilities in India. That's why they're able to get American jobs. There's just not the same business opportunity. There's not the same employment market. That's the big difference. Destiny, from an economic standpoint, you want to take in doctors and similar from other countries. IT staff is cheaper remote. You have to pay them less, and they don't take additional living space. I don't think that, do you get H-1B visas for just like people doing ordinary IT work? Or I thought that the stuff that these guys are working, the Indians that are coming in, I thought is a little bit more elevated than that. Or maybe IT work does span up to like really high level work, and I don't know how much all of IT encompasses. Like if you were a software developer, would you call yourself like you work in IT? So it'd be better to highlight how you were able to solve a specific complicated problem in your past jobs on your CV. I would be able to answer anything about CVs, my dude. I don't know if I've ever made a resume in my life. I didn't need a CV to be a carpet cleaner, dog. You just had to show you know to work the carpets. Hey, Elon Musk, you're telling me that 70K per year entry-level jobs are 0.1% talent. 70K per year entry level. That's pretty good, no? Average degrees, highest starting wages. For entry level? I haven't looked at these numbers in a while. I don't know what like is normal now. The average starting salary for the class of 2022 is about $62,000. I think we looked at the site yesterday. Jesus. Follow-up tweet to that. I don't understand the argument that they only want H-1B workers so that they can pay them less. From my experience, they get paid the same amount as a citizen. I'm gonna have 1 month where people are allowed to optics harp, okay? Because now this is like the thing I'm focusing on now. I'm trying to praise these things not negatively. I think the issue is that I think Americans will look around and you'll have like 5 workers working at a thing, and all of them are getting paid like 70K a year, and they're looking at each other and they're like, why shouldn't we get paid 80K a year, right? Why not? That would just be, we should. I think we should. Even if like for the equivalent education, even if they're already getting paid more than anybody else with a college degree, they're like, I think we should. I think this is bullshit, right? And then people will complain and say, why do we only get 70K a year? We should get like 75 or 80. And then obviously, so I've said this a lot. It doesn't hit hard because we're American and we only live in America, so whatever. But our standards of living and what we've come to expect in this country are wildly higher than other countries. So what Americans will say is like, this is failing, it's broken, it's busted. Like there are Europeans that are looking at us like, bro, we don't even have that. Holy shit. And so when somebody else comes from overseas and they're even willing to live in America and like, okay, I'll do this job for 65K a year, other Americans will look at that work and go like, okay, well now you're fucking us over because you're driving our wages down, which to some extent must be true, right? Higher supply of labor means that cost of labor is going to go down a little bit. But then people have the normative attachment to cost of labor where higher is always better, even though higher cost of labor means less profitable businesses, means less investment in businesses, or it means higher consumer prices, or it means some businesses don't exist, or whatever. It's a whole ass fucking thing. But yeah. People are mixing up H-1B1 workers and jobs that are outsourced directly to India, e.g. H-1B1 workers at my company are paid the same as Americans, from what I understand. Our acceleration teams, on the other hand, is based in India, and they do work for half the cost of American workers. Yeah, sure, but if those H-1B workers that were getting paid the same as Americans in America didn't exist, the American workers would probably be getting paid more. But also everything else would cost more, or some businesses just wouldn't exist too. But people, those are like unseen costs, so people don't see that as much. Nobody can afford to live off of $70,000 a year in today's America. Okay. Stop crying about declining birth rates when you want us to live like a bunch of welfare queens. Can't have a family and keep having more kids while making $70,000 a year and also working 80 hours a week. You can make more money working 40 hours a week and overtime at McDonald's each year. At Destiny, can you explain to me why the top most paid person can only make X% more than the lowest paid person would be bad? Because why would it make sense to say that that should be how the wages should go? What if the guy at the top is genuinely worth 100 times more than the guy at the bottom? Oh, I'm sorry, I opened a calculator. What, if you work 15 an hour, isn't that like 40K a year? Is that even 40K a year? I feel like people think that, let's say 40 hours a week times 52 weeks is 31.2K a year. Where are you working at McDonald's and getting 70? That's at 15 an hour with nothing coming out of your taxes. Did I mess this up? 15 an hour times 40 hours a week times 52 weeks in a year. Also, does McDonald's even, will they schedule you now? I don't know how much the job market has changed. Will they schedule you for 40 hours a week now? That doesn't like bump you into like a full-time category? When I worked at McDonald's, I don't think they ever hired any front of houses full-time unless you were a supervisor or a manager. One of the little like, I don't know if this is true now. Okay, I don't know if this is true now, but one of the little quick life hacks that you could always tell when somebody was lying about being poor is when you would see them go through like, okay, well, let's figure out like how much money you could earn if you were working at whatever place. And they would always multiply the hourly rate times 40. And my mind would always say like, bro, you're never getting scheduled 40 hours a week. Management would kill a supervisor, or the owners would kill a manager if you were scheduling employees such that they qualified for full-time benefits. If you're working at McDonald's or some bullshit, you're fighting for 30 hours a week or 32 or whatever like the cutoff is. They'll try to keep you an hour or two below it because they don't want you to accidentally accumulate enough hours to become a full-time employee. Like it'll fuck them hard. And if anybody gets overtime, you're getting fired. Your ass is crap. Bro, if you're a supervisor at a fast food restaurant and you're scheduling motherfuckers on overtime, but I don't know if that's changed, or maybe that was just a McDonald's thing. Is this immoral in your opinion, or is it just Reddit molding? You'll have to work 2 different jobs to get over 40 hours a week. Yeah, but juggling multiple jobs is super fucking irritating. My inner hatred for the middle class rises again. Not hatred, my disdain. I feel like in some lines of work, it's always easy to get jealous of people that have 9-to-5 jobs because it means that they have their Friday is Friday, their Saturday, Sunday, their weekends Saturday and Sunday, and they're always working consistent 9-to-5. But if you're working 2 jobs with irregular hours, the hardest part isn't even working on the hours. It's trying to synchronize your schedules between both jobs. So you'll get a schedule that's spit out from, because you're not always working like the same hours or the same shifts. If you're lucky, sometimes you are. I guess it just depends on the industry. But trying to make these line up between 2 different part-time jobs can be a fucking nightmare. But I guess it depends on, again, what kind of jobs you're working. Doesn't payroll also do little stupid tricks like scheduling you so your hours cut across the change in the pay period? I wouldn't call that a trick. That's just your pay period, right? But our schedules, at least where I worked and every place I worked, your schedule is always like the pay period. Like those are your schedules. Somebody said that Laura Loomer lost her check mark. Is that true, or did she just like change her name or get rid of it and now she's like blaming Elon? Has anybody like verified this yet? I don't even know if you could verify it. She claimed she lost it. I guess Elon could verify it, right? Tons to even Nick. He took a lot of verified that shit on him. Oh, the one girl. Wow, the X team just put my verification under review after calling the new algorithm shadow ban. Uh-oh. Wait, what? It's so crazy how many people don't know the first rule of the internet. Just like give it like 3 days and the news cycle will change. Why would Elon go so hard on this? Oh no, what's he doing? Elon Musk is now admitting it's retaliation. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. He said yes. So calling out mass migration is a stupid game. Just so you know, okay, going back to, we can do like the Marxist analysis, or like any capitalist would have the same analysis. Remember, there is always tension. I feel like this is what it is. This is, it's obvious that this was always the case, right? That Elon Musk advising the president puts you in a strange conflict of interest, right? That was the big call out. It's a conflict of interest. And one of the reasons why it's a conflict of interest is because, remember, don't ever forget this. 1, don't forget it just for econ and finance knowledge. And 2, don't forget it, okay? Because fuck your company and fuck your boss. You are an expense to them. You always are. Labor is a cost of doing business. Labor is the category of things that you spend money on. It's an expense, okay? Any business owner is always trying to minimize expenses, minimize cost. That's what you do when you have a business. Elon Musk is an owner. Elon Musk is part of the donor class or the owner class. His goal is to minimize expenses. So you would expect somebody like Elon Musk to be in favor of more H-1B visas or to be in favor of higher supply of labor. That's just obvious. And there's nothing wrong with that or bad with that. I love eating boots and I love worshiping labor and the proletariat and the bourgeois. I like all people, okay? There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with, there's something wrong also with labor is like fighting for higher wages. This is the tension that exists between employee and employer, always. But it should have never been surprising that Elon Musk would come out in favor of things that is going to increase the amount of labor available to his businesses. Like that should just be obvious. The guy's literally an African American. What do you expect? That he was gonna come out in favor of the white race? We took this country from the Indians once, and by God, we can do it again. Okay, I mean, not completely untrue. Any accounts found to be engaged in coordinated attacks to spam target accounts with mutant blocks will themselves be categorized correctly as spam. Ah, interesting. I disagree that it's good that Elon wants to and can influence Trump to bring over more cheap labor and hurt the already crippled average tech worker. The average tech worker is not crippled, my friend. But I do agree it's problematic that Elon has such a close position to Trump in doing this. That is problematic. I'm sorry. What I said wasn't problematic is that business owners should always be trying to keep their costs low. That's good for the consumer, and it's good for the owners. But that person shouldn't have an unelected role in leading government policy. That's a massive conflict of interest there. So basically the right split into two factions, tech right and right. And the tech right is like, hey, we need H-1B visa people to do the jobs. And the right was like, no, you need to hire Americans. And the tech right is like, but you guys are retarded. And the ... Elon Musk, that pretty much sums it up. This was eye-opening. Oh no. What is even the cost per company to sponsor an H-1B visa? Is it $5,000? And then you have to hire them, I think, at what the market rate is, I think. I've worked engineering and cybersecurity for 18 years. Degree plus certs is saturated. Experience is lacking. Foreign labor has demonstrable skills via tech competitions. Our businesses need the best. True. Can you please explain why Elon being in Trump's ear is such a huge problem? And would it be the same problem if the richest man in the world was elected by the people? If Elon was voted president, for example? You know what? Honestly, I kind of would say that Elon was kind of elected. I think it's fair to say that maybe. I think that people that voted for Trump knew that they were getting Elon too. I just think that there's a huge conflict of interest between a guy owning that much and then making government policy, because I don't know now, are you representing Americans or are you representing your like business interests? That's scary to me. Are you concerned with the push to establish a Bitcoin reserve, or do you feel like it's just an overblown talking point? That's never happening. Bitcoin people are, I need somebody I can shit on if I'm trying to be nice to everybody. Yeah, it's going to be the crypto people. Crypto people are beyond stupid. That's never happening. Nice work, Steve. We need more goblin mode for 2025. No goblin mode. Oh no. We named Tesla after Nikola Tesla, one of the greatest engineers ever. He was a penniless immigrant whose inventions led to American dominance in electricity, generation, and usage. But was he an H-1B work visa immigrant? You seem to be moving the goalpost to all immigrants bad, which isn't the argument. Oh no. How is this optics here different from before, where you felt stupid for having the conversations? Are you going to be nice but still wish you? What I need to do is I need to do a survey at some point. There's a huge piece of data that I don't have that I need to know. I'll probably work on this tomorrow, maybe. But I need a survey. I need to figure out, for people that listen to content that... First, I'm curious how people found my content. What was the rhetorical approach that worked the most? I'm curious to know that one. And then the second one is for people that watch content that challenges them, who do they normally watch, and then why do they watch them? I need to get like more concrete answers on stuff like this, because I know the concepts behind all of this stuff, and I know that all of it works, but I don't actually have strong numbers attached to my head. But I'll make this like I'll work on this I think tomorrow or the day after. I don't know why people are spamming stuff right now, but... So basically oh, okay. There's a wild theory going around on X that Adrian Dittman is actually a fake persona created by Elon Musk. This theory came to be already around 6 months ago, after which Adrian and Elon spoke together at a space full of Musk fanboys. Short thread.
Yeah. Dude, who's in the room with you? Who's in the room?
Hey, Elon, what game are you playing tonight?
Diablo.
Nice.
Diablo. What class are you playing?
It's like, whatever it came out and not that long ago. But yeah, like my main recreational activity is just playing with kids and then video games.
We can hear X in the background.
So yeah, so
That's so cute.
Yeah, so it's
new seasons are fun. The new season stuff for
Diablo. Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to actually just get a hardcore character to not die, which is hard.
The game is too laggy.
Yeah, you'll probably have to spend.
It's not.
You'd have to play so.
Enough.
Yeah, you'd have to play for so long. It's basically, it doesn't make any sense from a utility standpoint.
Character name is Monkey Balls, and
Okay. Dittman has attended Alex Jones's X Spaces at least twice, and even Jones himself has suggested that Adrian is actually Elon. Some have speculated that it could be a deep fake voice cloned. Oh, wait, I'm so sorry. This is from February 19th. Why was I like this? This is old. I thought there was a new thread out today where somebody was trying to say they proved that Adrian was Elon. I don't know. I'm like undecided on it. I don't know. This guy does a voice analysis. Is that a real laugh from him? Okay. This is dumb. But okay.
Elon Musk is the top Diablo player in North America, right? Which
I think in the world, dude.
In the world.
I think he's the number one in the world, which is fucking insane. It seems so unlikely that if it was in a movie, I'd go, shut the fuck up. He's not the number one Diablo player. I don't care how smart he is with rockets and electric cars and satellites that give broadband internet and tunneling under the earth, and also owns X.
It's suspicious, I must say.
And he's tweeting 48 times an hour. He's so prolific.
Well,
it's like, where's your head?
has to just be audience signaling. I don't know if he believes this, unless he doesn't know anything about gaming, but I mean, it's just, that's got to be, it has to be audience signaling. It has to be audience signaling.